Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups, situationships, and issues overall. Today, we're going to get into when will my ex forgive me and come back? So, this is one of those situations where people are blinded by the idea that I said sorry. Why won't you forgive me? Why isn't that enough? Why do you keep not listening to my sorry, my apology? So, this happens a lot. This comes up all the time. People know they made a mistake. They realize the consequences of their cheating or lying. And they keep wanting to hammer it home to their partner or their ex, whoever they're with. Why can't you forgive me? Why can't you just let this go? Why can't you just roll with this? Why can't you be okay? In the past, you were okay with it. That's what we're going to get into today. And a lot of times it takes more self-reflection than you think. It takes you answering some questions for yourself. Because in the moment when you're arguing or you're going at it or you're trying to figure things out, a lot of your responses are extremely biased and impulsively answers that you would give to get your way, when really you want to seek to understand rather than to be understood. So what's the difference with that? You're like, all right, this individual is not forgiving me. What am I missing here? Let me take 2 steps back instead of 2 steps forward. What am I missing? What people miss a lot is the personality, the makeup of the other person will decide if they forgive you or not. Situations too, right? So there's certain situations that individuals are more sensitive to than other people, where someone else would be like, that doesn't bother me too much. For example, I'm going to get into it today, like cheating. Everyone thinks that everyone that is cheated on should just throw that person out with the trash, never talk to them again, never give them a chance. One cheater, always a cheater. The list goes on. They're this horrible, horrible type of species of partner, girlfriend, boyfriend. You should never be with someone like that. That's one perspective, right? The reality is cheating's been going on since the beginning of time, literally. It's a human nature thing. I'm not excusing it, but within each individual relationship, they'll handle it their own way. And there's plenty of people out there, because of the way they've been brought up, their views on the world, that they can forgive someone for cheating. Or they can even allow it in their relationship with a blind eye. And someone else from the outside is going, I would never do that. Right? And this is where perspective and individual values come in, but also the idea that you have a personality, an archetype to your personality, more than one personality, really. If you really think about it in your own life, if you look at yourself and you honestly look at yourself, probably when you go to a Christmas party with all your family and relatives, the family that you do like, maybe you have 2 sides of the family, maybe you have an aunt you really like, but you have an uncle that you don't like, et cetera, et cetera. When you go to that place compared to maybe your job where you have to be professional, wear a suit, and do certain things, sometimes it will split your personality and how you handle things. Some people, oh, well, I'm real, I'm genuine, I'm always the way I am. I like to think I'm like that too. But situationally, we're always different because we have different triggers. We have different things we're sensitive. And a great example of that, when you really want to make this simple, stupid, is your phobias, right? It's like, why is one person extremely scared of spiders? Extremely scared of driving in a car. Those are situational things that other people are not scared of. And most of the time, it's just that when that person was a little kid, they were exposed to a spider, they watched a TV show that scared the shit out of them. The list goes on. And so this is why when somebody goes, when will my ex forgive me and come back? It's like, well, I need to know more to the story. But it's not so simple that you can just say sorry, get on your hands and knees, buy some roses, and do all these things and then just get the person back. That's not what they're looking for all the time. Sorry counts and it's an important component. But the person on the other end has a right to say, you know what, I'm not forgiving you on this one. Not anytime soon. I'm not even rolling with it. In fact, I'm not going to talk to you. That's a right they have based on whatever it is that they feel like you did to them or the relationship. All right, let's get into this. Rob, how you doing? It's been a while. I hope you're well, my friend. Brand new Skinner, always a pleasure. We got the NBA on deck. That should be exciting this year. When will my ex forgive me and come back? Number one, that's a different answer for different people and it's situational. So someone might go, well, that doesn't answer the question. It actually fucking does answer the question. It does. So then when you take 2 steps back and you go, all right, the situation is cheating. All right, what is their history with cheating? Oh, dad cheated on mom when she was 12 years old and it resulted in a divorce. Okay, well then that's going to be ultra sensitive to that individual most likely. It's going to be double the pain for them because you're bringing up an old wound. Now let's flip that. This might surprise some people, but there's some people out there that have grown up with parents or a father that had multiple girlfriends or multiple wives. Someone's like, really? Yeah. Talk to plenty of people like this. They love their dad. And their dad cheating and doing that when they were young was accepted by the mom. And so when they're in a relationship, they roll with it. There's more of an odds of that being okay, right? Number 2, put yourself in their shoes. This is very difficult for people to do. I don't think they do it. And a lot of guys, if they were cheated on or they were treated the way that they're trying to get out of, they won't accept it too. Like really honestly, if someone did that to you, what would you do? What you're asking forgiveness for. Now this next one, number 3, is very useful. And this is actually useful for you even if you're not in a relationship, you just have friendships, you have colleagues at work. But when you're really pissed off at someone at work or in a relationship or an ex, this is a really good thing for you to do. Where are 5 other times, and maybe you only come up with 3. Maybe you just come up with 1. Where are 5 other times in your life where you haven't forgiven someone that said sorry? Great way to put yourself in their shoes. And off the top of my head, when I wrote this out today to get on deck, talk about this topic, this subject, I thought about it. Right when I wrote that question, I'm like, right away, I got one. Right away, I got one. I was like, all right, I remember when there was this one time in high school. And there's probably more than one time I didn't, forgive a friend. One of my really good friends at the time, we were just 15 or 16 years old in between that time when you're just getting your license in America. I mention America because some people on this channel aren't from there. So 16 years old to get your license, it's a big deal, right? So people are in high school, that some people have cars, some people don't have cars. I remember that this particular friend of mine, who, like I said, was a really good friend at the time. And the funny thing is about your youth, high school, middle school, sometimes you could have a really good friend for a year or 2 and then never talk to them again. Just because they moved or they changed friend groups. It happens. This particular friend, it was a weekend. They were at someone's house and he said he was going to pick me up. At the time, I think I didn't have a car and I was waiting. I was waiting at the house. And then he'd call me back and be like, oh yeah, I'll be there in 20 minutes. And then it turns into an hour and then it turns into another hour and 40 minutes. And it's like, what is this? It really upset me because I was waiting. I wanted to go out that night. And the communication was like, oh, actually, so-and-so wants to go here. And I'm not going to be able to pick you up after I wait an hour and a half or 2 hours. I don't even know what it was. So I was pissed. I went back to school. I didn't talk to my friend. That friend came up to me. He's like, look, I'm sorry. There was other people in the car. And at that time in my life, in high school, being 15, 16 years old, I was like, I'm not going to talk to you. Never going to talk to you again, but just cut the person off. Looking back, I didn't like who that friend was hanging out with anyways, and there was something about that friend that was just off. That being said, so, he stepped up and said sorry. What else are you going to do? He explained what it was, and he left. And you know what? I respected him. He didn't say sorry 15 times or beg for my forgiveness. He's a dude. He's got dignity. But that was a time like now, if that happened, I would have handled that completely different. Completely different. I don't know if I would have forgiven him a lot right away, but I've been able to understand. All right, cool. And you're accountable. Like that wasn't cool. Right? And if you look at your life, there's times when you haven't forgiven someone. Usually when you're younger, for something petty, for something you could have forgiven them for. So when you're in a relationship and you're like, why isn't this person forgiving me? Look at your own life. Things that you have not forgiven other people for worse. And really, when you don't forgive someone for something, what are you doing for the 4 people on deck in the live stream? What are you doing? When you say, someone comes to you, they're like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I messed up. What are you doing when you say, no, I won't take your forgiveness. No, I'm going to ignore you. No, I'm never going to talk to you again. No, that's unacceptable. What are you doing? What are you doing when you do that? Some people might think, oh, I'm standing up for myself. Okay, maybe. I'm providing boundaries. I'm showing that this is unacceptable. Okay. But really what you're doing is you're trying to hurt them. You're trying to punish them. You're trying to get them back. Like, you hurt me, so you want my forgiveness, I'm going to hurt you. Because it's, what is it? If someone forgives you, they come with their hat in hand, their hands down, they say, I'm sorry, I messed up. And you reject them, you straight arm their apology, it's rejection, it's hurtful to them because now they doubled up. They're like, wait, right? This is what happens with sorries and forgiveness and apologies. And some people like that power. The minute someone comes over and apologizes, they're like, oh no, I'm going to play this out. And you know what I'm talking about. They suddenly switch the tables. Oh, you're saying sorry? Get on your hands and knees and I'll think about it. Those are people that they don't just want you to say sorry. They want to humiliate you. They want to hold control over the situation on a level that's not going to make the situation better. It's more like, you hurt me, so I'm going to hurt you 2 times worse. That's not a good situation to be in. And a lot of people know what I'm talking about. Number 4, why do they need to forgive you? This happens all the time. Why do they need to forgive you? Let alone today or tomorrow. Sometimes people need to marinate for a little while on forgiving you. They need to be pissed off at you for a little while. They need to feel like they made you pay a little bit. There was a consequence. When you think about that, when you go back to those 5 times in your life where you didn't forgive someone, and like I said, it can be smaller than cheating in a 5-year relationship, which is very heavy, right? But you look at your own life, there's been times where you don't forgive people too, and you're allowed to do that. Like, looking back at that story I just shared where that friend in high school, I'm glad I didn't stay friends with him long term anyways, because he ended up hanging out with a bad crowd and just had a bad personality in some ways. But he did say sorry for what I was pissed off about as a friend. And then you have a choice. All right, this person's taking responsibility. Do I believe them? What do they want? Number 5, this is a really good question that gets asked when someone does something bad in a relationship and they're saying sorry. Why'd you do it? Now, your partner is going to maybe ask you that question possibly, and then you're going to, well, I was drunk. Well, I don't know why. There's always an answer why. You might have to take some individual time and really peel that back layer by layer, because a lot of times when I'm in live coaching sessions, I can peel that back real quick. Because people are like, oh, I did. Let's talk about why you did it. Why'd you do it? What was the temptation involved? Well, I was talking to the girl I cheated with. I was talking to her for about 5 months, and I went to school with her before, so I knew her for a while. So you had this on deck for a long time. Yeah. So, and then they'll go into, well, I also, there was multiple times where I wanted to break up with my girlfriend because she wasn't giving me the time I needed and the intimacy wasn't good. All right, now we're getting somewhere. So you had a reason, whether that reason's valid to your partner or to you now, you got to peel that back. Why did you do it? Because just saying sorry with not knowing why you did it, you'll probably do it again. Right? You'll probably do it again then. So knowing that, why did I do this, is big. And clients I've had, like I said, it's very good to book a live coaching session and go through that question with someone that's non-biased like myself. I'm not a friend, family, or colleague, so you can be honest with me. Because a lot of times you're not going to be honest about it with your partner. You're going to go, oh, I was, I just don't know. A lot of people, I don't know what I was thinking. It's like, I know what you were thinking. If I ask you a certain set of questions and we get to the point, and then once you know, a lot of times sometimes people cheat, for example, that it's habitual, it's okay in their line of the world. Number two, they're in a temptatious environment repeatedly. Number three, they're unhappy. Some people are unhappy in a relationship. They don't have the guts or courage to go single, to break up. And so they subconsciously create situations that make them break up. People do it at jobs too. It's like, why did you get fired? Oh, they said I kept coming in late, but for a year, I was coming in 10 minutes late and they never said anything. And then all of a sudden they just fired me. It's like, well, you got warned. Being late to work for a year is a bad thing. It's not good for the employer. Could it be that you really didn't value that job? If the job paid you $200,000 a year, would you have been on time? And they said, hey, if you're late one day, we're going to fire you. Was the consequences not high enough? Why were you late every day? Well, they allowed me the first 6 months. Like, well, why were you okay with that? You got to peel that back, because then you can understand why you did it, and then you can actually be sorry with understanding of your motives. Totally different case. If someone's like, well, why'd you do it? And you're like, I don't know. It was stupid. Not a very good answer. Because the only way you're not going to do that again, or you're really going to have a shift in your behavior, is to understand why you fucking did it. It might take some time to write that out too. Some people will naturally gravitate towards punishment. Absolutely. Those people want leverage. Some people don't want to answer why they did it. I think what it is, Rob, too, when someone says why they did it, a lot of times, and I've realized this in my own journey in my own life, people are not mindfully going through their lives. And that's, being more mindful takes a process of you getting time in your life to get quiet. This is why meditation's so big. This is why just going for a walk on your own is so big. You're not going to be mindful of the patterns you're running without talking to a therapist or a coach like myself, or getting into because what you're really doing is you're just latching on to patterns that you've been running since you were a kid. Just like I mentioned earlier, see a spider, I'm scared, spider's going to hurt me. Someone told you that. That's an authority figure. They will say something like, I don't know, or I have no answers to that. And so let's say someone gets in trouble, they're sorry for what they did, they stole, they cheated, they did something really bad in the relationship, and they're like, I don't know why. That's a problem. Maybe you don't want to answer that to them, but you need to sit with that journaling or talk to your friend and really figure out why did I do this? What am I getting from this? And I would add, if you really want to understand your behavior, have I done this before? Or has other people close to me, friends, family, colleagues, partners, exes, told me I do this a lot? That reveals a lot to you, right? That reveals a lot to you. All right, so I do have a story on deck. We're going to get into that in a moment. Yeah, if someone has no answers, they really need to go to the source of the behavioral issue. Right. And you should want to know why you did it yourself, right? Like, because the word sorry is kind of overrated. It's like, do you really know what you did? Do you really know why you did it? It counts. It counts. But just by simply asking your question, why did I do it? There will be, and a lot of times people don't realize, sometimes you don't like the answer to things that come up. So you're like, oh no, it can't be that. The first answer is your subconscious. The first answer usually is what you're going on. It's your knee-jerk reaction. It is your first answer. It is the way your thinking's going. I think when people have done something wrong and their focus is just to be forgiven or to make things better, sometimes they don't know why they did it, because that'll take a whole nother set of questions, another set of focus. It'll take accountability, and it'll take asking detailed further questions that are uncomfortable. Because when I ask clients a lot of times it's like, I was never happy with her. We hadn't hooked up in a month. She was sick for 2 months. Like, they have reasons. It's like, did you tell her that? No, I didn't tell her that. They have reasons that they've built in their head. All right, we have 3 on deck. If anyone wants to share a story or a question about your situationship or your relationship, go ahead and throw it in the comments. And we'll get into this. What I wanted to talk about today, too, is that sometimes when people are in a situation where they're saying sorry, okay, so they're like, I'm sorry, I did something wrong. They're making sense of what they did wrong, and they want the other person to forgive them. There's different methods to get forgiveness, right? Someone might give gifts. Someone might just say sorry. Someone might get punished by the other person, where the other person's like, look, I'm not going to sleep with you for a month. The list goes on. But you need to get to a point where you detach from the sorry part and get to the part of like, what's the problem here? Because the problem could be that you're hanging out with a group of friends, or you're in environments that are not good for someone that has a girlfriend, that are not good for someone that's married. And you like those environments, but it's going to affect your relationship. That's where you get 2 layers deeper than the sorry part, and you can honestly say, all right, I'm not going to hang out at this place anymore because I know that's a part of what happened here. Right? All right, let me get into the story. Hello, I broke up with my girlfriend 3 months ago. I cheated on her, lied about it continuously, and broke down and told her the complete truth. I had gone to visit a woman that I was highly attracted to for over a year, and that was pursuing me with DMs and hot pictures. All right, so like, this is one of those situations that goes on a lot now, is that you're discounting the fact that I cheated and lied about it and continuously, and then broke down and told her the complete truth. So right off the bat, you cheated and you lied about it. So you doubled down on doing something bad, then cheated on it. You had guilt. You told the truth. You were highly attracted to a woman that you kept DMing with hot pictures for over a year. So this didn't happen by chance, right? This isn't one of those things like, oh, I don't even know what happened. Well, just in those first few sentences, it tells me that you knew exactly what you were doing. It was if when the stars lined up for this individual that you were DMing that was hot, you were going to hook up. I ended up staying with her for a week and having the best intimacy of my life. In the moment, I was in heaven. When I got back to my girlfriend, I found myself scattering for excuses and lies to explain where I had been, and then I had to address my guilt and paranoia. So that's when I began to contact my friends that knew her, and even the woman I had hooked up to explain the story that they would tell if my girlfriend called them. All right, let me reread this because it's a little confusing. So that's, I got back in the moment, I was in heaven. When I got back to my girlfriend, I found myself scattering for excuses and lies to explain where I'd been, and then I had to address my guilt and paranoia. God, paranoia is a strong word, isn't it? It's one, I mean, that's a bad state to be in. So that's when I began to contact my friends that knew her and even the woman I had hooked up with to explain the story that they would tell if my girlfriend called them or asked about this trip that I had lied about. So now what you're doing in a situation like this, and this is why it's good to write your story because you're anonymous, so you're not going to get stoned in the street here. You double down on lying. And the problem with double downing, it's one thing to lie once, but then when you double wrap it, triple wrap it, rubber band it, more lies, that's when you get to a point where you're paranoid. That's when you get to a point of extreme guilt. And some people can lie like that. They're usually called psychopaths. They have no feelings. So in this particular case, it caught up with the guy. I covered all the bases, and my girlfriend and I had no idea the whole time. The problem was that I knew the truth, and I felt guilty about lying to her. Then I decided to finally tell her the truth about everything, about the stacked lies, about the sex with another woman, and I even told her who this woman was. Deep down, I thought she'd forgive me for this, not while she was crying, but at some point she'd give in and realize I was still a good boyfriend. Well, a lot of people are hearing this right now and saying, good boyfriend? What did I miss? But he's revealing that he basically thought he was bulletproof in this situation. That, well, if I say sorry, she'll come to her, saying sorry is going to eventually work out. And probably in other points in his life, he said sorry growing up and it worked out for him. In this particular case, when you're in a relationship, the whole point of being in a monogamous, romantic, intimate relationship, right, is that you don't cheat, is that you don't screw around, unless it's agreed upon, unless it's wink, wink, like I never want to find out. And there's situations like that where there's women that go, you know what, you can do that, just don't let me find out. Just don't do it in my face. If that's not the agreement, then you're breaking the covenant, right? Then I decided to finally tell her the truth about everything, about the stacked lies. Deep down, I thought she'd forgive me. Okay. After all, I knew she loved me and that she was way into me, and we had broken up before, and she came back to me before. So why not this time? Well, if you revealed to her that you lied and cheated, and if you told her the truth about you covering your bases, when you get into, so this is an interesting thing, when you get into creative lies, it's one thing to be like, oh, where were you last night? I was with my friends, and you're lying. Okay. When you get into repeated creative lies, when you're like, oh, we went on this boat trip, and I went and saw Sean, and I saw John, and like, you get into all these, when you break down and tell the truth and you crumble all those creative lies and those stacked lies, someone's going to have a lot of trouble trusting anything you say in the future. They're always going to be thinking, is that true? I've had friends over the years that are just exaggerators. They just exaggerate. That's just how they're built. They tell whoppers. They just, like, you're like, did that really happen? It's almost funny. It's positive usually, and it's harmless because it's more or less like they're telling a story, a big fish story, if you know what that means. The guy that goes fishing and tells you how big the fish he caught. Now we have pictures. So, like, everything's recorded on video or picture. But there are people out there that they just exaggerate. But it's harmless, right? Because it's just about their experience and how great it was. I mean, you might look at it and think that they're arrogant or they're a liar, but they're just exaggerating. It's not hurting anyone. When someone's lying to their partner, or their girlfriend, or boyfriend about sleeping with someone for a week, which this guy is, they're not just going to go, oh, okay, give me a few days, right? That to me is extreme ignorance. And ignorance means you don't know what you don't know. And in that specific situation, what you're doing is you're like, well, it'll all work out. You're not putting yourself in the other person's shoes going, wait a minute, how would they ever trust you again? You didn't just lie, you lied repeatedly. And then you explained your lies later on. After all, I knew she loved me. So why not this time? I told her the truth when she was getting on a plane going to see her family for a month in a different country. What transpired the next was 8 months of no contact and many nights of me crying and facing the question, did I fuck up in telling the truth? I sought out some advice from online breakup coaches. Ironically, 2 female coaches I talked to both said, why do you tell her the truth? So if someone's going to coach you just for results for you, they might say, all right, like hindsight 2020, you could have kept the lies going and kept the girlfriend. Yeah. Sure. It seems like the lies were working. You were covering all your bases. Unfortunately, there's something called a conscience that some people have that gets in the way. If you have any sense of integrity and you care about that individual that's your partner, that's just going to eat at you like rats on a cheese log. Okay? It's going to just eat at you. And so you don't tell the truth to get back with your girlfriend. You tell the truth to set you free, because those continued lies are just eating at your integrity and you feeling good about yourself. So when you think that, oh, I could have kept lying. I mean, what are you doing with your individual state? Right? Like, who are you as a person? So sometimes you tell the truth, you fall on the sword, as I say, and it doesn't mean that you get the girl or you get your boyfriend back. It means that you get back to start the game over again, clean. And they don't necessarily have to forgive you or get back with you, because guess what? They don't trust you. They're not going to trust you anytime soon. And you just divulge. You just unwinded all your lies. But you think you think you told the truth for them. You told the truth for you. And that's a good thing, because you just proved to yourself, like, I don't like lying. You didn't have to do that. 2 female coaches, you didn't have to do that. She didn't want to know the truth. So going back to this, I sought out some advice from online breakup coaches. Ironically, 2 female coaches I talked to both said, why'd you tell her the truth? You didn't have to do that, and she didn't want to know the truth. Some women will say that post-breakup. They'll be like, oh, I caught my boyfriend cheating. I wish I would have never known, or he would have never got caught. I've talked to women like that, okay? There's some truth to that, right? If I had a girlfriend of 5 years and she was cheating on me, I don't know. Do I want to know? I think I want to know. I've never been in that situation. But if I didn't know that you just had a rendezvous with someone randomly and you're never going to hook up with them again, yeah, that could not affect me then. See no evil, hear no evil. Okay. But on the flip side, you're walking on broken glass in the shadow, because you know deep down what you did, you wouldn't want done to you. You know deep down what you did isn't okay. And the lies won't stop, because a year later, they'll be like, oh, yeah, I ran into so-and-so. That's when I thought I'd really messed up by telling her the truth and, of course, cheating. And seeking more answers, I finally found a coach and therapist that helped me dig deeper, and I realized there were some things about her that I resented and that I actually wanted out of the relationship at some points. So this is huge. I don't think your mic is what your software is using. Okay, well, let me check that. Hold on a sec. There you go, bud. Is that better? Thanks for the heads up, Percy. In seeking more answers, I finally found a coach and therapist that helped me dig deeper, and I realized there were some things about her that I resented and that I actually wanted out of the relationship at some points. And this is actually a really big point in the whole story, okay? Because now he's finding reasons that he maybe did this subconsciously. Okay, so in digging deeper, he had some resentment, he had some issues before he did the cheating. Does that make it okay what he did? Hell no. But now he has some reasons, like, actually, I wanted out of the relationship at some points. People do this at jobs. They start acting up, they start being late, they don't value the job. And really, they look at it like, well, I'm not going to be here forever, but they don't plan on quitting because it's secure and it's familiar, but they're doing things to get fired. Sometimes people do this in relationships. They do things for the other person to break up with them, when in reality, they just don't have the guts, courage to do it themselves. There was an illness she had for almost a year that caused her to have mood swings, and it also hugely affected her desire to have sex. I also was annoyed with her comments about me being behind schedule in school and even calling me a loser for going to the gym so often. Who calls someone a loser for going to the gym? Probably someone that doesn't like the gym. And if you do, I mean, it's a pretty ridiculous thing because, going to the gym, getting exercise or anything like that is something that's hard to argue against. She judged and looked down at me at times. I wasn't happy in our relationship and I had other women pursuing me. Yes, cheating and lying was 100% wrong and that was fucked up of me. But I fell and told the truth. What I didn't anticipate was her not talking to me for 8 months on how much I would miss her, how much I would still feel guilty, and how much coaching and therapy I'd need to get through this. Well, she did text me eventually, as my coach told me was highly probable, at the 8-month mark. We met up and she continuously accused me of hurting her and that she was still angry with me, but still loved me too. When I asked to work on things and start dating again, she said she'd think about it and then blocked me after our meetup, only to unblock me a week later. She texted me that we could stay friends, that if she wanted to date me again, she'd let me know. But as of now, I was still a lying cheat. That hurt me a lot and confused me. So this is, okay, I've said this numerous times. This happens a lot. People do this thing where like, all right, so 8 months later, they meet up, is what he's saying. Right? And so someone else will be like, oh, they're going to get back together. Not necessarily. People do this all the time. Oh, my ex came back. I hear this in YouTube videos. Oh, my ex has always come back. Oh, my ex came back. Really? To get back with you or just to hook up? To check in with you or to get back with you? Because there's a lot of times people just checking in or they just want to hook up because they're lonely. But I would say over 50% of the time, it's not to get back with you full time. Because if you've been apart, sometimes people don't realize it, but they like that freedom that they've had away from you. At the same time, I was reminded that she was manipulative in her ways. I decided to accept her feelings and the breakup in full in that moment. And I came to the realization while talking to my coach that yes, I messed up, but I learned a lot. And now the situation was just a breakup a year later. It wasn't about what I did wrong. It wasn't about what I learned or what I would do different in the future. I still missed her, but I stopped blaming myself. I stopped looking at the breakup as a fuck up. I saw the relationship in its totality. This is how you want to see things down the road. What does that mean in its totality? The totality is, one part of it is you cheated, you lied. Another part is you told the truth, you missed her, you wanted her back. Another part is, oh shit, I realized before I cheated, I wasn't happy. Before I cheated, I don't think I would have been with her for another year or two, even if this didn't happen. Before I cheated, I might have cheated a year later. It was always on deck because I wasn't happy in the relationship. And in the totality, you also realized how much hurt he caused by the cheating and probably won't do it again. There were moments I wanted to break up with her too. There were issues I had with her too. And to be honest, I wasn't very physically attracted to her. Well, there you go. I conceded that even if I hadn't cheated, I still wouldn't have chosen to stay with this woman for the rest of my life or even the next few years. I cheated and I was wrong, and that was the reason we broke up. But there was more problems that were never going to be fixed. I'm 23 years old now, and I couldn't overcome my temptation to sleep with another woman. I messed up in that moment, but I've come to terms with my mess up now being a lesson and a wake-up call. Something I won't do again in my next relationship, and something that I forgive myself for. And now that that breakup is just a breakup, and to define a breakup is to see a couple that have irreconcilable differences. We had more differences than just that cheating, and I understand that now. It was a breakup, and all the moves that I could have made but didn't make most likely would have still led us to breaking up. I'm okay with that now. I just wish it didn't take a year. Thank you, Coach. So obviously I was the coach for this person, but they wrote this out because this is what's happened. This is what's transpired, which is really interesting, right? Because you start out from a point where you did something wrong, you want forgiveness, you just want to get back with them, you're lonely, you're upset. And a lot of people, in this particular individual, he never anticipated how hard it was going to be to break up. He never anticipated that there's a possibility that she wouldn't forgive him. And then when it happened, it took a lot of time. It took a lot of self-reflection to realize maybe before you did this bad deed, you wanted out already anyways, and you were just subconsciously looking for a way. And that's how humans do things a lot of times. Intentionally. All right. Well, thanks for letting me know about the sound issue. I know why that was. I believe it's better now. Yeah, it's coming through now. So does anyone on the live stream currently have any questions? Most people don't want to be in uncomfortable conversations, huh? Sometimes when you ask someone why they did something, they need some time, right? Or what pops up in their mind, they're like, I'm not going to tell you that. It's the whole reason why you have therapists and coach. Confession is to tell someone that you do feel comfortable with that doesn't work with you and might tell your friends, right? It's hard to trust people with your secrets or your real feelings or your real reasons. What's up, Sam? How you doing? I would add too that what you want to get to whenever you're in a breakup or a bad situation is that point where you look at the situation in its totality. So from the one end, you're looking at it from
wanting the person back, wanting them to forgive you, wanting to make things right, but you have to think to, why'd you do the bad thing in the beginning? What were your motives? What were your intentions? What were your reasons? Were you just unhappy, or did you anticipate breaking up and you're trying to line up someone else? Like, be honest about that. And then you could understand, wait a minute, even though you're just knee-jerk reacting to someone crying and missing you and you being lonely for a week or two, with the idea that actually this relationship ran its course. Actually, I can see why someone doesn't want to forgive me. And that's the thing. You see someone 8 months later after no contact and all this kind of crap, it doesn't mean you're going to get back together. Just because someone calls back doesn't mean you're going to get back together, but you might be able to get some more closure, an update on how everything's going. But in most cases, you're better off starting fresh in a new relationship with new values and morals. And hopefully this individual that wrote this story that I've done coaching with, and we worked through a lot of stuff, in the future when he has a long-term relationship, he won't do that again because he knows the consequences of it. He knows the paranoid feeling, the guilt that he gets when he cheats or does something bad. That's something that's unique to him, right? It's not unique to everyone. I was just telling someone this yesterday when I was doing a coaching call, and I said a lot of people out there that are in authority positions will impose their morals and values onto you. You got to pick what's right for you, and sometimes along the way, your morals and values are shaped by consequences. Think about that for a minute. Are they shaped by rewards or consequences? Maybe both. But in this particular case, it's like, oh, cheating seems really nice. I got a week with this beautiful girl. I'm going to go out, da, 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 da. And then he gets back with this girl. Oh my God, I feel so bad about this. He's never gone through that consequence of it. He never anticipated that consequence of it. Now that he's felt it, now that he's been through it, he has to plan for that in the future. Right? Because there's always going to be temptation. Anyone want to come on deck to talk a little bit? If not, I might wrap this up in the next 5 minutes. Thanks for letting me know about the mic. I hope it's better now. Percy Blue. And I hope you're doing well, Mr. Blue. Seven on deck. I think it's been a couple weeks since I've been out here. What's up, BW? Been jamming? I hope you're doing well. Good to hear from you, bud. Hope the fish are biting. So I'm working towards, got 5 on deck. I'm working towards these laws of a breakup. And so anyone that wants to chime in, you guys have chimed in on this before, but if anything comes to mind, go ahead, throw them up there. Fishing is good. Good. It's always good when you get the right fishing hole. It's always good when you fish and you know a place you can always catch fish. Right? I remember as a kid going on a vacation somewhere and you go somewhere new and you're like, oh, we didn't catch anything. But like if you find a spot, you find the method, you find the right lure, bait, and you know every time you go there, you go, there's got to be something wrong if I don't catch fish. And it's kind of interesting. I've had an episode before where I was talking in a live stream. I was saying that people don't realize that you can think about that in dating. About the laws, I'm going to go through that in a minute. I've just made a quick list about the laws of a breakup. I'm going to have quite a few of them on topic, but if you guys want to chime in with any of them. So, for example, some of the ones that Sam Lujan said, don't let the breakup break you, accept the breakup, would be a law. Identity changes the relationship. This is actually one of the biggest ones. Identity change is one of the biggest ones. Identity change changes the relationship. They've lost attraction. And once attraction is lost, it can't be regained in a day or a week. If someone comes to me and they're really deeply wanting their ex back, one thing that comes up a lot is not realizing if someone's lost attraction, and that's a hard pill to swallow, right? It's hard for someone to divulge that, but you can, if you haven't been sleeping together for 6 months. I had a client, they were together, I think 2.5, 3 years. They lived together for most of that time. But they slept in different rooms for the last 6 months or 7 months. And when I got into the conversation with them, their intimacy was not good. It was awkward. It was uncomfortable. There were some things going on with it. Right? There was, like, to me, that's a direct sign that attraction's been lost. You can't have intimacy. You can't find a way to hook up, and you're sleeping in separate rooms full time, not because of allergies, not because of the noise. It just, when he was telling me all about it, it was awkward to listen to. Attraction's been lost. That individual never told him, I'm not attracted to you anymore, but it seemed obvious. If that's the case, and it's not necessarily just physical. It could be personality, right? Sometimes when you're around someone, they just start to annoy you. Or some of their habits or their hygiene. I have a client right now that's got major hygiene issues with his girlfriend. These are things that you lose attraction. If someone at the point of breaking up with you was complaining about your dress code, the way you look, and they hadn't really done that before, or making little jokes about how you look, or you don't have style, whatever, and you're just picking up on that, and then when you break up, you're like, oh, they were saying this about me. You're probably not going to get together anytime soon, because that's a big part of having your relationship. If someone's not attracted to you anymore, and you can't get that in a day by saying sorry, or I'm going to change, or I'm going to go to the gym. That's one of those things that you have to decide. Do I want to become more attractive for them, to them? Or am I just a lazy sloth that's just let myself go, that just needs to go to work? Not for them, just because. And like I said, because you're not going to do it in a day, and you're not going to get, someone doesn't break up and go, hey, I'm going to give you 6 months of gym time and work time, and then you can get back to where you were 3 or 4 years ago when we first started dating. Like, you just can't do that. And sometimes people come, they're like, oh, well, you're a coach, what do I do? It's like, well, if someone's lost attraction, that's kind of run its course. And that's what happens sometimes too. It's like, oh, it started out so good. It's a journey in a relationship, right? Like, there's tiers to your relationship. Your first tier is dating. It's just seeing if you like each other. It's just seeing if the spark is, oh, that person looks good. Oh, that person and I had a good conversation. Maybe we'll go out sometime. The next level is going to date or two and see what's next. The next level is getting physical, whether that's after 4 dates, 5 dates, or 2 dates. Having a kiss, getting intimate, hugging each other. That's the next step tier. The next tier would be agreeing to be monogamous. The next tier would maybe be moving in together. The next tier would be marriage. It's different for different people. What happens is some people get stuck on one tier, like living together or just dating, and it doesn't go to the next level because upon further review, it's not happening. Right? So that's a big one that comes up quite a bit, actually, that people don't realize. And it's not, I don't decide if your partner's unattracted to you. I don't know what their reasons are, but you can identify that by a few quick questions, right? Here's a big one. You've lost confidence and nobody cares. People, sometimes they've lost confidence because they lost their job. That's a big one. They make less money than their partner. That's a big one. And then they feel like, well, nobody cares that I lost confidence. Well, there's no thing that they're going to be able to inject into you or a pill you're going to be able to take to regain full-time confidence. Right? You're going to have to go back and figure out where that came from. Another big one is attraction is fleeting. So going back to that attraction thing, there's attraction that gets to a point where it's dead. The individual that you first started dating is not half as attractive as when you first started dating them. Whether they let themselves go physically, or they have an addiction, or their lifestyle, the list goes on. But in a healthy monogamous relationship, there'll be moments where you'll find your partner unattractive for an hour, for 20 minutes, for when they haven't brushed their teeth in the morning and you already have. Right? And those are things you can deal with. Those are things you don't like, unless you're a nitpick, petty person, which there are people like that. What they don't realize is like no one's full-time 24/7 living with someone going, oh my God, you're the most beautiful thing I've ever met in my life. I'll never see anyone as hot as you. So attraction, there's always going to be some unattractive moments that aren't grounds to break up. There's just grounds to deal with it, to understand that this is one of your next tiers when you start living together and spending more time together. Right? You're going to have some unattractive moments. Rob, but I don't know. I know Rob's story, actually. Rob knows I have a good memory, but Rob's told this story before. He didn't come on live, May. He didn't come on live, and he's just thrown little snippets out about it, but I know the base of it. I know the base of it. The other thing that I think is coming to light, and I would say I would put this as a law of a breakup, and this is one that really, no pun intended, people have trouble swallowing. You aren't compatible personality-wise or value-wise. You're just running on attraction juices. And that's okay. Attraction's a big deal. It's a big deal. But if you aren't compatible values and personality-wise, and that doesn't mean you have to have the same personality. It just means that certain personalities don't meld well. And that's when you get 3-4 years down the road and you have a lot of issues. Right? You have a lot of issues. And sometimes it's like, wow, why is this person like this? What you're really saying is, why aren't they more like me? Why aren't they doing things more for me? It's like I had this individual recently this week. They've asked me to take some time to answer some questions. They want to be a counselor or therapist or coach. And they've messaged me multiple times. And I know this person through mutual friends. And I've offered to be like, oh, you want to get a Zoom call or you want to get lunch to talk about it. And they've been nothing but they haven't made it easy. They're asking me for help or insight on something they're interested in. And they don't realize that they're actually in the messaging we've had back and forth. They want me to accommodate them. Well, I live over here, so that's too far for me to meet you. Okay, I thought you were asking to ask help from me. So people do this all, you know what I mean? It's like, well, you live really far away. You live 30 minutes away, and I'd rather you come to my coffee shop that's 30 minutes from me. I'm sorry. Did you ask me? Am I the one giving you some insight on something I've been doing for 5 years that I'm willing to take some time for you? I'm totally fine doing that. But you come back, and this is interesting when people are adults and they're unaware of this. Well, that's going to be inconvenient for me. Well, that's too far for me. I don't want to drive that far. Well, I wouldn't want to do that. It's like I. When I identify someone like that, friend, family, or colleague, I just keep my distance, because dealing with them, it always leads back to what's best for them. And they have no idea. They have no idea they're like that. Some of these people think that, oh, I'm not like that. Right? It's a compatibility issue. And sometimes you can see the stuff in the beginning, but if you're attracted to someone, it just blinds you. It's a big one, though, the compatibility thing. And for that, I've been recommending a lot of clients. I don't get any money for this. I'm not getting an affiliate for it. Understandingmyself.com, Jordan Peterson has a really simple personality assessment. I would definitely take that for yourself and just give yourself a base of some of the things that, and you can match that against someone you're dating, and then you can be like, oh shit, we operate so differently. All right. You're telling me you only had one girlfriend in all your life? All these lies. No, I've had a bunch. Only one that did something so out of bounds so that I can tell the story. Oh, okay. So Rob's saying that you're not going to tell the story of the good ones because nothing bad came of it. Do you want me to say what I remember about your story, Rob, or you want me to keep that to myself? The others were just normal, boring breakups. We can test how good my memory is. I only remember a little bit. I don't remember all the details. I just remember that she ended up with a convict. The guy was an ex-convict. Isn't that great when you get a point to a life like that, Rob, where you're like, I have nothing to hide? Go ahead. Let it rip. Which in recent times ended up overdosing. I'm sorry to hear that. The ex or the convict? Oh no. Sorry to hear that, man. That's a dark ending to that. The convict essentially killed himself. Either way, I don't care. It's none of my business. I'm with you, bud. We'll close that book. I think one of the other laws, know your trade-offs in the relationship. You got to know the trade-offs. There's always trade-offs. There's always something you're getting that they're not getting. And you can see these in other people's relationships very clearly, right? I think it's ironic. The classic one is when you see an older man, perhaps 60, right? When I say 60, I'm only 18 years away. And he's with a woman that's 25 or 30, right? And the guy goes, "Oh, I'm in good shape," and everyone says I look younger. It's like, all right, I'm with you. But really, a woman in that situation, even if the guy looks fantastic, it's probably not going to last unless he has a lot of money, because that'll be an extra trade-off. Because what that individual is doing, if she's 30, she's saying that I know this isn't going to be long-term. The guy that's 60 is like, oh, I'd love till death do us part. You know, in 20 years, I'll be 80. That'd be great to have a girl that's 50. In a majority of these relationships, after 2 or 3 years, 4 years, the woman bails. And the guy comes to me, he's like, oh my God, she's younger, she's this, she's that. She loved you, she was into you, there was intimacy, but I mean, if you were really going to look at her trade-off, it's got to be in her back of her mind that, all right, this guy's going to be 70 when I'm 40. Am I up for that? And the guy doesn't see that. All the while, if the woman's 30 and attractive, she's getting a lot more attention than from guys that are her age, that are all candidates to be her boyfriend or something like that, that she's probably more attracted to, or just likes the idea that they're going to age better together. But if that guy's worth, the 60-year-old guy, if he's worth $10 million and can take away all the financial worries of her life, maybe she's willing to do that trade-off. It's a trade-off. Now, people from the outside could see it and they're like, oh, you know, and then the guy gets married and then 7 years later she cleans him out, right? Like, or she gets half of everything. Well, there's a trade-off there. A woman isn't going to just, a 30-year-old woman isn't just going to go with a 60-year-old guy that doesn't have a whole lot going for him. He's going to have something extra that's special. That or fame that goes along with money. He's a world-class chef and owns a really nice restaurant, and she works at the restaurant. That's an authority figure. That's someone that's got a high level of respect that she's not just going to find with any guy off the street. Those are those situations. Those are those trade-offs. And knowing the trade-offs in the relationship is big, because then you know why you're in it, why you're dealing with the parts you don't like. It's not my problem, thank God. Well, good for you. One of the laws I put in here is people do change, but not because their ex tells them to. Familiarity can grow a relationship and kill one too. That's another one. You'll never meet another partner like your ex. That's a fact, and it's okay. Perhaps you'll meet someone better. It's just looking at better. Here's a very good law for a breakup. Be fair when it comes to financial disputes. Get your calculator out. People come to me before, like, and we got this issue with the deposit and this money that I owe. It's money. Get the calculator out. Put the emotion to the side. Be as fair as possible. Yeah, that's right, huh? You're attaching emotion to it. Just split the cost or do the right thing. How the relationship started is related to how it ended. Ooh. Not 100,000% true all the time, but very true if you look back over it. If you start out a relationship and they're still seeing their ex-boyfriend while they're dating you in the beginning and you were okay with that, because you weren't that serious about them and you were getting your rocks off and you guys were hooking up, then 2 years later it becomes your girlfriend and then you're wondering, why is that ex still calling you and you still get lunch with them? Well, you were okay with it in the beginning. Well, the circumstances are different now that we're together. Yeah, but it still was okay in the beginning. It wasn't addressed then. So the person still thinks it's okay. Covert contracts are booby traps. So a lot of times these covert contracts, well, I did this and this and this for them and they didn't do anything for me. Do they know that you're keeping score of what you do for them in relation to what they do for you? No, but they should know. Well, then get a contract out and write it out if you want to do that. Covert contracts are situations where you feel like you've done enough or you've gone and over-delivered and you haven't been appreciated or compensated. It's bad communication, it's passive-aggressive, and it's a booby trap because you're setting yourself up. Oh, I do all these things for them and they don't do anything for me or they don't do anything back for me. Well, then speak up. Are people comfortable with contracts like that? Well, a covert contract, the reason it's called covert is the other, and people do this in business. You work with people and you're like, oh man, like I always do this, this, and this, and they never do this. Have you ever confronted them on it? Have you ever told them like, hey, I'm pulling way more weight. I really don't like your assessments, right? I think that if there's certain, and this goes back to personalities, raw bias, and I've talked about the 4-year sex contract before, that might be an option for certain personalities. People that keep score or are very analytical, they have trouble in relationships because they have trouble giving without knowing what they're getting. And if you want to have that kind of relationship, then maybe get a spreadsheet out. You could do that. I've had one client tell me a story about that before. You could do that. Some people would be offended, but other people go, all right, now we can keep track of things. It's what you do when you have a job. Here's my check, here's my salary, here's my taxes, everything's getting divided. This is what I got paid for what I did. Right? So the worst thing though that people do is that when they go, oh, I've done all these things and then I didn't get anything back, there's no organization to it. That's not how it works. Dr. Oz suggests that sex 2 or 3 times a week should be normal. Maybe that's a contract. I don't know, because a contract would be something in writing. A covert contract is more like you feel like you've been doing this, this, and this and not getting anything back. You feel like I did the dishes, I took out the garbage, I did the laundry today, and now you're complaining that I'm watching the ball game. I should at least get to watch the ball game in peace. And the wife's going, well, I actually wanted you to cut the lawn too. And the guy's going, I did 3 things already. I should get to do whatever I want. Right? And now he's going to devalue what he did, not realizing that he actually did those chores for the house too, not just for the wife. Right? Dr. Oz suggests that, you know what's interesting about that, Rob? Dr. Oz suggests that sex 2 or 3 times a week should be normal. Maybe that's a contract. What's interesting about that, there's all this stuff on semen retention. So there's arguments that can go against or for anything on the internet now. Right? You can make a case for anything. It's amazing. 2 or 3 times a week sounds good to me. There's other people that are like, oh no, I've met a few people that are like, oh no, it's every day. Maybe she's testing the guy, see what his limits are. Yeah, it might be a test. Absolutely. 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 It would be interesting because when I say a 4-year sex contract, I'm saying to make up your own rule. Like, here's the thing. Someone gets out of a breakup 4, 5, 6 years, 7 years later, and they're like, I did this, this, and this, and I got nothing. Or they get out of a relationship. Oh, I wasted my last 4 years of my life. Oh, God. Or they never did this. They never did that. A lot of times people do not stipulate, or they're not clear on what they want in the relationship. And so later on, when they don't get what they want or things go wrong, they complain about it. But then when you talk to them, sometimes you're like, did you ever speak up and make it known that you wanted X, Y, Z? And so if you had a contract that laid all that out, I'm not saying that's something that I'm saying that it's for everyone. I'm saying it's another option where you could write out your stuff. And this would be specific for personality types that are orderly, that are into spreadsheets, that are into results, to have something to go along with. It wouldn't be for every couple. I don't even know if it would be for me. But I do think this, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's no alternatives in between boyfriend, girlfriend, and marriage. Saying that, let me back up one moment. There's a small section of people, I don't know if anyone knows anyone like this, that they're engaged for like 5 years. They wear promise rings, but they never get married. I've known a few couples like that, and they say it's because of taxes, or they say it's for other reasons. I don't know. Whatever. So I guess there is one more, like you can be engaged. And you can be engaged for a year, 2 years, right? And people can break up during the engagement. This is my fiance. Right? What is that? I don't know if it's cold feet or planning. A lot of people want to save. A lot of people don't realize a big reason people get married, not all, is this romanticized idea of a marriage day at a fancy resort, in front of the beach with everything right and flowers and cake. One ceremonial day. And then the honeymoon. And then I've talked to people that got married, and then later on they're like, after the honeymoon, it's like a letdown. Like, what's next? Oh, well, you're married for the rest of your life. So if you had a contract while you're boyfriend, girlfriend, or in between getting married, you can maybe track where people are keeping their promises, where people are improving in areas that will help grow the relationship, and being accountable for each other. Is it for everyone? No. I wouldn't suggest that. I wouldn't say, oh, everyone should do this contract. I think that it would be a nice alternative for some couples. It would be nice because what it does, every year or every 6 months, you can review that contract they both agreed upon and see where you're meeting it and where you're not meeting it. And then you don't have to worry about passive aggressive communication. It's like, no, we agreed on this a long time ago. Should we rework it? Things have changed. Oh, you can't go to the gym anymore because your ankle. Oh, this, whatever you want to write in there. Whatever you want to write in. Yeah, marriage is $50,000 a day. That's crazy. All right, folks. It's been good to catch up. I'm glad to see Rob IS, the Guardian at the Gate, is fully on deck. Rob, I hope Mary's okay. I've sent her a couple emails, and they've bounced back. Haven't heard from her in a long time. I'll have to message her later. May, I hope you're doing well in Mexico. I actually have a client that wants to move there. In Mexico City also. Ben, always a pleasure, my friend. Percy Blue, thanks for the mic check. Sam Luhan, thanks for checking in. Brand new Skinner, always a pleasure. I think she's still around. Yeah. Yeah, nice to be back. I don't know if I'll be back on deck tomorrow, Rob, or not. I got a couple coaching calls and some other things I'm working on, but maybe we'll answer your questions about Mexico. Okay. It's not for me, it's for the client. I don't plan on moving there. Although it's my favorite food. Ironically, I love tacos, burritos, salsa and chips, guacamole. For sure, Rob. Always a pleasure, my friend. All right, folks, it's been good. It's been grand. It's been great. It's been outstanding. Perfecto. Take care. It is curtains.